people are starting to think about, sorry about that. I am recording this session, but most people are probably starting to think about budgets and what 2026 will bring us and what it will look like. Um, so I am Lillian Buziak. I will be hosting our webinar today, and I am joined by the one and only Lifetime Achievement winner, Edward Roski, who, if you don't know Edward, he is a 25-year veteran in the technology and finance space and has many how should I say this, Edward, accolades. But the most recent one that he just won was a Lifetime Achievement Award that was given to him by Oracle. And and Edward and I just came back from an event called Kscope. And Edward, I'll let you talk a little bit more about that in terms of how you earned it.
Thanks. I see one of the people on here as one of the original founders of ODTUG, so one of the attendees. What happened was back in 2007, Oracle acquired Hyperion, and they really didn't give a home for the Hyperion people. So I got together with, or they got together with me, Monty Latchley, Jeff Jacobs, Mike Riley, and they said, is it possible that Kscope, Kaleidoscope at the time, could be a home for the S-Base community, for the Hyperion community? And we said, sure, let's try it. And that first year, we had 150 people show up in New Orleans in 2008 to go to sit in a room with everybody else for 4 days and learn about S-Base. And then that became what is the now the EPM community. So I've been helping grow that EPM community over the last 17 years as part of Kscope. And I announced I was not going to be presenting anymore at Kscope. This was my last term on the board. I'm on the board for 60 days more. And they decided to graciously grant me a Lifetime Achievement Award. I did check, and apparently these are never given out to young people. These are given out to people that they're like, yeah, we're good. You're done now. You can go off here. So I'm going to, as you all know, spend the rest of my life probably talking about artificial intelligence. I will probably come visit some friends at Kscope. But thank you, including some of the people on today's webinar that had a hand in it. I appreciate it greatly. And that's
Well,
the last I'll
Edward,
mention
just
it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, Edward, thank you for just letting us know you are Gen X, which is old. And, it's time to turn the reins over to the cooler, millennials, Gen Zs, and, and then now, moving into the world of AI. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. But before we start, uh, do you remember Y2K? You remember how crazy that was, where people thought the world was going to end and their computers were going to blow up? I mean, that was what, 25 years ago. And, people are talking about AI like, is this real? Is it actually going to work? Is it going to help us? So, are we in another kind of dot-com bubble situation here with AI? What are your thoughts?
Uh, I this is not going to be a big nothing burger like Y2K was. And you might argue it ended up being a big nothing because we went and found all the COBOL programmers from the 50s and 60s and invited them back out to go fix all the elevators. They wouldn't, I don't know, plummet on 1 second past midnight, January 1st, the year 2000. I tend to believe it was a lot of hype. It was a lot of spending. It definitely, in retrospect, you can't prove a negative. What would have happened if we didn't do it? But it definitely was not the impactful thing. You can find a movie or two about what was going to happen at Y2K, including one that came out in the last couple of years, if we hadn't fixed all the computers and basically the machines would have killed us all. AI is nothing like that. AI is more like the internet in kind of the mid to late 90s, where there were definitely people that were holding off, thinking, yeah, there's nothing wrong with mainframes. We're kind of okay with personal computers, but people will always want newspapers. They will always want to read the classified ads. They will always want the yellow pages. By the way, if I'm using terms you don't know, means you are not Gen X or older, and you should go look these up on Wikipedia. But there was a time, think of it this way. Imagine you printed out your contact list and you printed out Wikipedia, and maybe your contact list you printed on yellow paper, and maybe Wikipedia you printed on black and white paper and put it in binders. All those things didn't used to be online. And back in the mid 90s, there were companies that said, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to keep going to the Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to keep paying for my Yellow Pages ads. I'm going to keep using direct mail because it was good enough for my great grandpa. It's good enough for me. And there were a few companies that said, no, we're going to look back on this as a time before the internet and a time after the internet. And I want to survive to be there after the internet comes out. And those companies, like the Amazons, the Googles, spent a whole lot of money trying to be the leaders in that space as it began to dominate. I remember Walmart made an early pivot to saying, we want a slice of this e-commerce world. Even if it turns out
Mhm.
to be nothing, we want to be prepared if it isn't. So pretty much it doesn't know. Walmart's now in the United States, the #2 e-commerce company behind only Amazon. And they did that not by saying, hey, we're dominant back in the mid 90s. They said, we want to keep being dominant. It's a long-winded answer. You're going to run into several of these over the next hour. There's a long-winded answer, a way of saying, I don't think we're in a Y2K situation. I think we're going to be in a situation of we will look back and remember the world before AI, just like we remember before internet or before smartphones. And we will look at the world after AI. And what we never realize is when we're in the middle of it. And we're in the middle of it right now.
Yeah,
I mean, ChatGPT launched the world in December of 2022, and we're now recording this in the middle of 2025. So it's
exactly.
clear it's here to stay. I mean, ChatGPT is now the #4 website on planet Earth.
Yeah, some would argue we're even late. If companies haven't even started thinking about AI, some would argue, hey, you're already late to the game. That the train has, taken off. I don't know, I don't think anyone knows if that is accurate. But what do you think, companies are doing differently today with AI versus, what they tried to plan for back in, the early 2000s?
So some companies are repeating the mistakes of the late 90s, early 2000s, and that they are trying to build entire companies who do nothing more than technology. I read somewhere that there are over 30,000 new SaaS, software as a service companies centered around AI. I think back on those will go down in the AI graveyard, kind of like pets.com. Spend all the money on a
Oh,
Super Bowl
wow.
ad, you'll probably
Yes.
never hear about them again.
Are they
The
still around? Pets.com?
no, they went
Oh,
bankrupt. I,
okay.
I think
I
within,
didn't think so.
don't quote me on this, I think within 2 years of their Super Bowl ad, and there were a whole lot of Super Bowl ads, back in the early 2000s, and the dot-com bubble burst, and they all collapsed. What survived were two types: the companies that were early in the internet days, companies like the Googles of the world, but now internet is part of everyone's budget. There's not a company out there that doesn't have the website. There's not one of us that doesn't say, I Googled something today. And I think that's where AI is going to end up. We are not going to have to pick from 30,000 different AI software products. But we will have AI throughout our entire company. It is going to be the internet, the smartphone, the electricity, the personal computer. I don't know, pick another metaphor here. It's going to be the lifeblood of companies going forward. So the mistake we make is sitting back and going, well, maybe a company will found a product and one day that'll solve my problem. That's mistake number one. Mistake number two is waiting, or doing something that is really just kind of kicking the ball down the field. That's a sports ball metaphor. I
Mhm.
talk to a lot of companies, and if I had to estimate, probably 30% of them are doing one of two AI things right now, just so they can claim they're doing something with AI. Number one, they're buying licenses of either ChatGPT or Copilot for everybody and never teaching them how to use it. Or number two, they're forming a governance committee. And whenever you hear a company say, our strategy is forming a committee, it's a way of delaying actually having a strategy. It's just kind of pushing it down the field. So I think where we are right now is, and if you look at the remaining 70%, some of those companies are doing nothing. They're like, oh, we're extremely busy right now. We can't get to it. And some of them are saying, we actually have a strategy. We actually know where we're going to get business value from this. We know how it's going to separate us from the competition. We know how it's going to cut costs. It's going to reduce headcount. It's going to make it so we don't have to hire as many humans. It's going to completely remove these line items. Those companies, I believe, are the ones that are going to be successful in the next 5 years. And those kind of wait and see companies, I don't know, unless you're running like a two-person plumbing operation. I see those companies really struggling going forward.
Yeah, I have heard, from several executives, right? CFO, CTO, CAIO, talk about forming this, yeah, this internal committee, mostly around governance, AI governance, but not really understanding what that means and what they should actually govern. So, and the conversations that I've had was around, projects. Like, how do we even start? And I don't want to start something and have it fail. And interesting fact that I read in, I think it was like a BCG article that stated 42% of AI projects start and then get either canceled, delayed, or never completed. So is that a reason due to not having a committee or not having the right leadership in place before AI is kicked off?
Well, there's a fun question. Did all those projects get delayed because they didn't have a committee, or did all those projects get delayed
Yeah,
because they gave it to a committee?
right.
Um, I, it fits right around the average failure rate of an IT-oriented project, which is about 40%. And there are a lot of reasons why those projects fail. Sometimes they just really wanted to launch something and didn't think of what they wanted the outcome to be. Sometimes people just want to throw money at something so they can claim on a shareholder call that they're doing something about it. Sometimes it's just bad infrastructure. I've definitely seen some AI projects fail because they went and tossed a chat bot on a bunch of random data. And what it does is it regurgitates random data. We're all worried about hallucinations, which is it making something up. It's a whole lot worse if it confidently repeats bad information to you. So we have to figure out how the AI can be used to figure out if the data is actually bad. We have to figure out what we want our outcome to be at the beginning. I'll tell you going back to that first example I told you, which is the companies that are throwing money at ChatGPT or Copilot or Claude licenses or Gemini licenses right now. A lot of those projects are not getting big ROI because they're assuming people can I guess figure out what to do with the AI that they're giving them. The theory being, if a 13-year-old can use ChatGPT to cheat on their homework, adults should be able to easily use it to cheat on their work. It's not that
Mhm.
easy. There's a big difference between write an essay for this and help me optimize account reconciliations, or help me go find a bunch of hidden assumptions in my budget. Maybe go find some insights in my income statement. Those are much harder questions, and no one's being trained how to do them. So they roll out all these licenses, and then they find that nobody's actually using it. And in some cases, they're kind of behind the times, where companies are rolling out projects that people already have better technology in their home lives. I saw somebody the other day complaining about Copilot and saying it's like, oh, I have better access in my ChatGPT Plus license at home. Yeah, you do. You have O3 access at home. It's a really good researching. It can even do deep research type model that you're not going to get out there in a Copilot world. I think the biggest way to stop it is to just ask the why question at the beginning. Like, why am I really doing this project? And by the way, a fine answer is I'm doing this because we have to do something. Like, we can't sit and do nothing. I'd
Mhm.
recommend you have a strategy, but if I may quote my dad, if you ever find yourself standing in the middle of a fire, the worst thing you can do is keep standing in the middle of
Yeah.
the fire.
Like,
Doing
run,
something.
please
Exactly.
run.
Run in any direction. You will be literally no worse off than you were if you just sit down in the middle of said fire. So doing some project, even if it's a pilot, is fine. But know that that's why you're doing it. Like, we're doing it as a pilot so we can try something out. If I can get a little bit preachy right now, another reason a lot of those projects fail is that they are being outsourced to IT, where it's like,
Mhm.
IT, go figure out how to make this thing AI. And all the need is being driven by the business, the CFO, the chief people officer, the chief legal officer, head of procurement, whatever they might be, they're driving that need. And then they're basically tossing it over the fence to IT and saying, you figure out how to actually implement it. And keep in mind, as much as Lillian, you and I think that AI seems like it's been around for years at this point, it's still, by the time you and I are tired of talking about it, is the time most people are just starting to hear about it for the first time. And I think that a lot of those IT departments are frankly no more skilled in using AI than most of the business people are. But the business people go like, well, this is a technology. You have technology in your name, so we will throw it to you and have you
Exactly.
figure out how to implement it. That's just a recipe for failure.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, honestly, AI is, I don't know how many times I say, for every time I say AI, I should take a shot, I'd be really happy on the ground. But that aside, with technology historically always being owned by the IT department, it begs the question of who, because AI is really catered towards business users, right? And to help supplement, augment, not even supplement, augment and support the business. What type of questions can the business, whether you're a CFO or running any business line, ask IT and work and collaborate with IT so that the solutions and the development within AI is exactly what the business wants in terms of the outcome.
Um, I will totally answer that question by reminding everybody what the original purpose was of the IT department. And by the way, if anybody has any questions, there's a little Q&A button down there at the bottom of the webinar. You can ask anything you want. We're going to talk about how to budget for specific line items. We're going to talk about how to budget for outcomes over the next year. But please ask anything you want. This is meant to be interactive with everybody. Back to your original question. Remember why IT was created. It was created to take technology and do one of three S's with it: security, stability, and scalability. They were there to take technology and make sure that it wasn't exposing all of our information to the outside world. It was meant to be stable, so the system has great uptime. And it was meant to be
Hmm.
scalable, so it was access to everybody. Notice what's not part of that: creating new business uses, figuring out how to optimize business processes, figuring out how to take a new technology that they don't even know if it's secure, stable, and scalable, and figuring out how to roll it out to everybody. Like they were never hired, IT wasn't, for their ability to go figure something out that's thrown at them. They were never there to say, here's how I can make the business a whole lot better. They were never
Right.
there to create use cases. That is a business function. But historically, technology has changed slow enough that if we said, oh, we want to take our dashboard that we were doing in Excel and we want to make it more secure and we want to make it more stable and we want to make it more scalable, what should we do? And IT would come back and go, oh, we can use Power BI or we can use Tableau or we can use Oracle Analytics Cloud or Cognos. And those products took 10 plus years to develop, and they will have been able to hear about them, go off and do the research. Where we're at right now is every 2 months, some new thing comes out. There's some new capability, some new feature.
Hmm.
We are running into that in our personal lives, and we know a great way to go ahead and use it. But we need to be more prescriptive. Our IT department still has a function with AI, and it is those three S's: making sure that we're bringing in a secure AI, making sure that it is a stable AI, making sure that it scales so it's not just a single user. Everything beyond that, though, in the world of AI should be controlled, implemented, managed, the need driven, supported by the business people. Think about it. When your 13-year-old, I don't know why I'm caught up on 13-year-olds cheating on homework. While the 13-year-old is going off and cheating on their homework, they're not calling the IT department and saying, could you please tell me what our policy is for cheating on homework? Could you make sure this is connected to our data center? How does it connect to the entire cloud? What are best practices for utilizing this to cheat on my homework? They're just pulling it up and saying, I can't figure out the answer to this question. Could you help me? And then the AI answers it. So
Hmm.
we've gone from a world where systems took 6 months, a year, 3 years, and to implement. We've gone from a world where it takes 10 years for a technology to build up to the point where it's usable, and we've gotten to the point where business people need to be using it now. Just like most of us in our personal lives, I think by most metrics, over 80% of people have at least tried using AI in their personal lives. Compare that to companies where that rate is somewhere around 35%. As people, we are driving the personal need for AI. Well, the next group that's going to need it inside of work is not going to be it's not going to be the CIO, it's not going to be the CTO, it's going to be the business people, the ones who go, maybe I can write that copy a little bit faster, maybe I can optimize that process, maybe I can get out of doing this task entirely. And I think once that happens, then IT is going to be able to step in and say, how can I help support that need? Tell me exactly what you want. Be very, very prescriptive about it. And I can
Mhm.
figure out maybe how to plumb the data into it. I can figure out that, yeah, we're a Microsoft shop and here's what the Microsoft product can do, or we're an Oracle shop and here's what that Oracle product can do.
So what I'm hearing is IT really is still that backbone and that foundational infrastructure, plumbing with what technologies work the best together and how AI flows into that entire tech stack and how then it complements the business in terms of what they're looking for to use AI for. So
Well,
there is a
and
question from, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was going to say that companies divide. This probably leads into the question you were about to ask from the whoever submitted it. Um, if you look at companies that are doing something right now with
Mhm.
AI, it's owned generally by one of, I will say, four different areas. One of those areas is definitely IT. It is the CIO or the CTO is owning that AI strategy. That group definitely has a play. The CFO in a lot of companies is owning it because they're the ones who are trying to drive optimization, business change. They own all the internal functions of a company. So the CFO is doing it. At some companies, it's the chief strategy officer because they say, we're going to be an AI first company in X number of months. And how do we actually get there? And they plan the strategy to get there. And then the fourth type of company is it's actually owned by the chief operating officer, where they say, we need to improve everything across our entire company. We need to do it faster than any of our competitors do, which leads into the question you were about to ask. So go ahead.
Yeah, so let's assume that the AI strategy is owned by IT and the company is set on that because, it's always a power struggle, right? Finance, IT. So how would the business navigate that divide and maybe some friction, internal friction that may be happening?
Thank you. And thank you to whoever submitted that question. It came across as anonymous attendee, but you know who you are, and it's an awesome question, and you're a really good person. Yeah. So how does finance navigate that divide, right? How can they make sure that they are serving the business when IT is saying we can control the strategy? First of all, the need is being driven by finance, and if you're driving the need, you don't want it turned over to the other person to be handled. Maybe you'll let them figure out like what the route is going to be, but you control the destination. Just because the car is being driven by an Uber driver doesn't mean they can go, yeah, I was going to take you to this nightclub, but instead, how about you go to the airport and get out of my area? No, you control where they're actually going. And you can say, like, no, we're going to do this instead, or we're going to do this. The need still gets controlled by finance. Also, IT right now, they love all the help they can get. They would love the input because as I said, their job has never been to go look at 20 different use cases and tell you what the best
Right.
use case is. So in a lot of cases, it's an unclear question. This is not a plug for my webcast, but it's about asking good questions. So if finance goes to IT and says, "Can you implement AI?" IT's like, "Yep, we have an AI strategy. Please go away, small child. I will get back to you in a little while." And then they go off and think deep thoughts for 3 to 9 months and come up with something. If instead finance said, I've got about 20 different use cases, different ways that we think we could utilize AI. Would you like to sit down with us and we can brainstorm together and go through those use cases and figure out which ones will be the best fit? IT will go like, oh, that is the best idea I have ever heard. Because what they don't want to do is look through your 20 things and go, I'm going to ignore all 20 and give you a chatbot. What they want to do is they want you to specifically say what it is you want. Think of IT in the perfect world. This makes the IT people happy. This makes the company happy. In the perfect world, IT is an in-house consulting company. And just like the consulting company should never come in and go, I hear the use case you want, and I'm going to completely ignore you and go with something else. If they ever did that, you by all rights should fire that consulting company. Instead, you would go to that consulting company and say, here is specifically what I need. Here is how I want it driven. I think I will know it is successful when it achieves the following goals. Here's how much money I want to spend on it. Here's the time frame I want it implemented by. IT's like, awesome. I can do that, right? The more constraints you give them, the happier, frankly, that they actually get in terms of what you're doing. So we are in a wonderful world of cross function right now,
Mhm.
where this is not like go run some Ethernet cable, or go figure out what our new Wi-Fi strategy should be, or should we be on-prem or cloud, which really those are IT-driven questions. If you start going, how can I rethink all my processes for 2025? That is so much more of a business conversation with IT playing like a role in it. And somebody did sign their name, so it was the awesome Gary Chrissy.
Yes.
So it turns out shadow IT wasn't really the problem; it was the solution all along. That's funny.
Great
Um,
one.
yeah.
Yes.
So shadow IT, the concept is that business people were doing IT related functions, and I get the tongue in cheek that really the solution. Yes, in a way, it was preparing us for AI. We were getting business people to get much more technological. Taking tongue out of cheek for a second, it's always easier to take a business person and teach them how to utilize technology than to take a technology person and teach them business. So if we can take business people and use AI to make them more technological business people, that's a whole lot easier than taking somebody who has like a pure computer science degree and saying, could you please understand finance processes? So I guess we have shadow IT. We also have shadow business kind of happening
Yeah.
in the IT group. Line of business IT, I think is the catchy name for it. Um, but yeah,
Yes.
I think the more business leans into helping solve their own problems, and then IT figures out how to make it secure, stable, and scalable, I think the better.
Yeah, and this brings us truly to 2025, right? Where it's being inclusive of every division. And it's not just finance, right? I mean, a lot of the business units, whether you're in marketing and sales and HR and operations, have their own budgets and all want their own AI solution in-house. So it's really working across the enterprise in a more cohesive, collaborative way that is making AI truly just the superpower, right? And the driving force to bringing your enterprise forward, and hopefully before your competitors do. So let's talk about training. We just talked about how finance needs to lean into it needs to lean into finance and really truly understand each other's purpose and role. How do you see training, in terms of AI? Like, what do people actually need to know internally and externally? But let's talk internally first.
Well, first of all, I was reading something, I think it was in an IDC report that said they recommend the average employee get trained on AI to a cost of between $2,000 and $8,000.
Per
And
person?
per person. Yeah, not a total budget of 2,000 to 8,000, but literally they should spend $2,000 to $8,000 per person training on AI. Now, when I first saw this, I went, this is insanity. You can get so much AI training for free. For instance, one of the ones I always recommend to get people started is deeplearning.ai, has a great free class called Generative AI for Everyone. The
Yeah,
website's put on
that's a
by
great
Andrew
one.
Ng. Yeah, it's easy to find on the homepage. Go sign up for it, watch it if you haven't already. What do people need $2,000 to $8,000 for? And then I realized if we can spend $2,000 to $8,000 per employee, making it so we don't have to hire another employee. Because they're so much more powerful, they had such a force multiplier with AI, it is completely worth that expense. So, for instance, say I had a financial analyst and I have two options. I can, our business is growing. Oh my gosh, we need to hire another financial analyst. I have two options. I can go hire that other analyst, pay them six digits, commit to keeping them employed for 5, 10, 30 years. That's option one. Option two, I can spend $2,000 to $8,000 on that financial analyst to make them an AI expert so they can do the work of two people or five people or 10 people. Which should you do financially? Of course, you should do the second one. What should you never do? Spend a whole lot of money on giving them a bunch of software and not train them anything. So you still have to hire the first person. So if you're going to give them a solution, by all means, train them on
Train
it.
them.
My advice, put more in your training budget for the next couple of years than you have in the last 10. We want people adopting these technologies very, very quickly. Do not leave it up to them to do in their spare time. Realize that training has the fastest ROI of anything you're ever going to spend money on. If you send somebody to a class next week, Monday through Thursday, they come back on Friday and they're better at their job. What other world? You're like, oh, we're going to implement an ERP next Monday through Thursday, and our business is going to be faster on Friday. Nothing else exists like training. So my advice to everybody is not to budget $2,000 to $8,000 per person. Although that's a wonderful number. If you want to do that, kudos to you. Tell everybody about it. My actual advice is don't do any AI solution without training associated with it. Please, please, please don't roll out Copilot licenses or ChatGPT or Claude licenses. Don't roll out the new company chatbot that's internal and connect all your data without teaching your people how to use it. I mean, a simple, by the way, there are a lot of public and free, and I do encourage you in your personal life to take some of those prompt engineering classes to get better at prompting and understand how to make AI collaborator. A lot of those do not apply in the business world. The way you have to work with a prompt inside of a business world is very, very different than the way you work with prompting in the public. So companies, put together your own, if you're going to roll out one of those internal chatbots, which by the way, big ROI on actually doing it. Connect to your internal data, have the AI process if they're looking at garbage and tell you if they're not, have it give all your financial insights and your business insights and report to everybody. But please, please put together your own internal, here's how you should prompt that. Here's how you get really good results. Here's how we can save you 10 hours out of your week by doing these type of things. Like the training will pay off far more than the base project actually will.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, quick question. I'm going to be devil's advocate for a minute. Being that, we all hear AI is changing daily. So once somebody is trained, will it become the information that they learn, will it become obsolete in a month or two? And how do we know and how do we make sure that what, training that's being given is going to stick for the long term?
So I'll tell you a little about building a system. When we first got access to like ChatGPT, a lot of us back in like 23, it would come back in, if you asked any question before, something like May of 2022, it would tell you it had no idea about it. And even after the 2024 election, when Trump beat Harris, a lot of the public GPTs didn't know about it until like February or March of the following year. A lot of that problem has gone away, by the way. Almost any frontier model out there now will have direct web search to go find what current information is to keep it updated beyond its kind of base amount of training data. Any internal business application of AI will do a technique called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, where it will go at the time you make your request, go get real-time data and make your prompt and your query updated for real time. So it's literally up to the moment of when you're submitting that prompt, so it doesn't become dated. If I take your question at a bigger level, by the way, the models get smarter on their own. It's every model version that comes out operates a little bit faster, has more capability, or is a little bit more human, or is a better job at doing insights. Think about how awesome it would be if your employees all just got a little bit smarter each day, or if Excel just got a little bit better each time you used it. That is what you're getting with AI. Bigger picture, though, training
Got it.
is when I say there needs to be a lot of training over the next couple of years. It's because the software is changing that fast. You can't assume it's one and done. The way I don't want to get too much into AI because this is a budgeting conversation, but the way you prompt engineer to talk to a reasoning model today is fundamentally different than the way you talk to a non-reasoning model 6 months ago. And it has to do with how you give it examples, and you have to say things like think through step by step, or make sure you use chain of thought. Those things are still teaching out there on the internet that all of us learned 6 months ago. Those actually reduce the effectiveness of a reasoning model like O3 or O3 Pro or Claude 4 Sonnet or Google Gemini 2.5 Pro. So we have to keep updating our information. This is not a one and done. I do believe there is a world where either the AI knows how to take our slightly out of date training and make it better, or the technologies get to the point where they're so amazing they don't need to keep evolving at the rate that they're evolving. But yeah, that's why I'm saying definitely add money to the training budget for the next 2 to 3 years because you're going to need to constantly be updating. For anybody who doesn't know, I live in Puerto Rico, and I'm the co-head of the Puerto Rico AI community. And we meet every 2 months. We get 80 to 200 people together, depending on the time, when we're holding it. And we always update them on the news in the last 2 months. And it is by far the most interesting portion of it all, where everybody is sitting down there going, I had no idea that was happening. I had no idea this had actually changed. at minimum do that inside of your company, is tell people, hey, since you went to
Okay.
training, here's what's evolved. And then to your point, Lillian, it also makes it stick better too.
Got it. Great advice. Yeah, I think, we all need training, I think, at some point in order to really truly understand, just the power of AI and what it can do. I'm learning every single day, and I love that DeepSeek .ai training program. They have these like multiple courses that you can take
Deep
throughout their
learning
site.
dot AI.
Yeah,
Yeah.
deep learning,
Yeah.
sorry, not
Yeah. No,
DeepSeek.
DeepSeek
Sorry.
is the Chinese model, which
That's
I
the
could go on
Chinese,
for
yeah.
about an hour
Yes.
about how it's
Sorry about
awesome, but
that.
I won't right now.
Deep
Yeah.
learning, deep learning. Okay. So speaking of budgets, I know in my household, my kids think, everything that they spend should be on me, even though they're in college and they can, buy their own Starbucks and gifts for their friends, whatever, but still it's under my budget somehow, on my credit card statement. So when we talk about budgeting AI, should it be, in a, like, where should it live? Should it live in its own separate line item? Should it live within finance's budget, IT's budget? Where do you see, like, how can people, you know, owning the budgets in their organization factor this in?
Well, first of all, when you're thinking about creating your AI budget for 2026 and beyond, there are three things you could do. Method number one is you could put no money in for 2026. By the way, also figure out by which date you will be bankrupt if you're going to do that plan. But you could literally do nothing and say we're going to figure it out in a future year. You're probably late for that conversation, but that's a possibility. Possibility number two is you put it kind of across the board and you have every department come up with essentially how they will be spending money on AI for whatever project they actually want to achieve. Or number three is you have like a large of it. And to your point about large pool, where should that large pool live? Should it be a standalone project code or a standalone cost center for, I don't know, AI modernization or business transformation or, rethinking 2026? Should that stand out there, or should it sit off in an IT line item budget? I'll tell you what I'm actually recommending at the moment is that it be department by department because it should be, at least on the internal side, everybody should be using it. Now, that doesn't mean everybody gets whatever random product that they want to go buy online. There should be some guidance. If, for instance, we're going to roll out OpenAI across the company, well, then marketing says we want to do some AI type things. Congratulations, we have OpenAI. We have an enterprise license with them. We can easily write you some quick Python to automate whatever that need is. So it's not the Wild West. What you want is everybody following kind of some suggested guidelines and standards, but figuring out how to improve it within their own area. So how does marketing improve it? IT should be figuring out, okay, what are the type of applications that apply across the whole company? Is it, for instance, could we easily make it so everybody in the whole company has a departmental chatbot that talks to their given area? Maybe IT says, yeah, it turns out everybody hates our data warehouse. It's really hard to navigate. Nobody can ever figure out what tables to join in. So we're going to put a little AI interface on the front where you just ask it in plain English what you want, and it goes off, finds the data, shows it to you in a nice query. Awesome. IT, you go run with that. Finance, you figure out how you're going to speed up the close or make the budgets more accurate or do 10,000 scenarios for next year instead of one scenario, one budget for next year. So number one, put it in everybody's department. What you have to decide is if you're going to be actually adding money to the budget. And what I
That
mean
was
by
going to
that,
be my question.
yeah, I'm going to
Yes.
follow up on my own question and
Yes.
and stop your own follow up. Yeah,
And then following on that, while you're at it, is how do you measure the ROI? And that was
cool.
actually a question coming from a attendee as well.
Yeah, Anonymous asked very, very well. Are companies budgeting differently for AI than previous technologies? Is there a paradigm shift? How are they measuring ROI? So yes, excellent follow-on. Here's what I advise. You companies need to be quite clear. We want you using this performance enhancing technology because that was not the message from 2023. Far too many companies in 2023 said, please don't use ChatGPT and add our internal financial data to their training data set. And it was all about like limiting and people they're still not in a lot of companies sure if they're even supposed to use it, or maybe they can use the company tool, but they can't use the more powerful tool they have access to in their personal life. So a lot of people are even kind of afraid to admit it, and they're definitely afraid to admit how much time they're saving. There was a study that came out of Denmark recently that said employees inside of Danish companies said that over 41% of the tasks they did now took half the time thanks to AI. They then asked those same Danish companies, how much money have you saved how much by doing all this? And the companies went, we're doing AI projects. Our people are using AI. They're saving time because the people are afraid to tell them that they're actually saving all this time. So here's what I actually recommend is number one, we make it quite clear. We want, no, we demand that every department out there is doing something with AI in 2026. At bare minimum, use it to speed up your job, but start rethinking how your processes should be. And if you really want to challenge them, you could say, and to help you do this, here's another $100,000 per department or $500,000 a department. You can do that path. There's another path that I think would be intriguing is you go to all those departments and you go, we will support as much AI as you want. Whatever you want to do, we will support you. Save that much money in the following year by implementing AI. So if your budget is $10 million and you want $2 million this year of AI, no problem at all. We'll give you the 2 million. And you take 2 million off of the other line items for the upcoming year. Because what it does is it forces people to say, where can I get performance improvements? Where can I actually get optimizations? Where can I rethink those processes? Maybe where can I not hire somebody I was going to hire? And all these outstanding job positions, like, wow, I got $500,000 of, I don't know, marketing copy editors out there waiting to be hired. Maybe instead I spend $200,000 writing a copy editor, automatic writing, editing, posting, social media manager. And it's going to pay off in year one, but then by year two, then I've actually saved all this money. So I I will say you should track the improvements of all those. This is not like an abyss. You don't want an AI budget where like money goes to just disappear. You will get hard ROI. I think it was Gartner or IDC came up with a study that said the average ROI for every dollar spent on a generative AI project is $3.70 within 12 months. That is an insane amount of wonderful, wonderful ROI. You're spending every dollar you spend gets $3.70 back, and not in 25 years, it gets it back within a year. So you can measure it that way. How much time are we actually saved? Or you could start to measure how much faster are we making decisions, how fast are we getting the right information to the right people to make better business decisions faster. You could measure it on reduction of people you're going to hire. You could, and there are companies like this, Duolingo, Business Insider just laid off 21% of their staff. Amazon has announced they're going to be cutting 7,000 headcount due to AI. You can go down that path of ROI and say, if we spend this amount of money, we can get rid of all of these people that we don't have any further. But yeah, definitely measure it. And one further thought, even if the projects are split across the organization, it's really a good idea to share that information and measure the ROI as like a portfolio. Because maybe you said, yep, the legal department wanted $200,000 because they didn't need to hire a paralegal. And so they spent $200,000 to go and look up a bunch of legal cases so they wouldn't have to do it. And that department's like, yeah, we didn't want to wait, so we actually went and hired the paralegal anyway. Okay, cool. We're going to stop that project. We're going to take your $200,000 and we're going to invest it somewhere else on another project to advance the company. A lot of people call this portfolio budgeting. I think of it like a stock portfolio. If you had money in 100 different stocks and 10 of them were like losing money and 5 of them were about to go bankrupt, sell those stocks, buy some other stocks with it. Just because you start a project doesn't mean it should go on forever. So while I dislike seeing that 42% of AI projects are abandoned, I would hate if that was 0%. Because what it means is we're continuing down with some projects that frankly should have been stopped.
I
Oh, and by
agree.
the way, we do have a question submitted by somebody about EPM consultants. I totally want to answer that one towards the end. It's not necessarily on budgeting, but I promise you I will get to your question.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, and on that ROI note, I just wanted to share a quick story. I had a conversation with the CDO of Starbucks. This was a few months ago, and they implemented AI to gain additional insights about their customer service. And because they had Starbucks just, again, had been trending down in terms of their overall revenue. So what they found was, people were unhappy that their their baristas and servers at the stores were not putting their names on their cup and calling it out in an efficient manner of time. Anyway, so they invested in AI to, collect that feedback. So guess what happened over the next 6 months? They retrained all of their baristas to make sure that they always called everyone, by their name and correctly spelled on the cup, and made a nice, departing gesture of, having a nice day or enjoy your coffee or tea, latte, whatever it is that you ordered. So to Starbucks, according to the CDO, their ROI was happy customers. So sometimes it's not even a dollar amount, but it obviously will equate to more customers coming in and purchasing Starbucks again. So
Yeah.
to your
Well,
point, Edward, yeah, ROI
yeah.
is different for everybody.
Well, and if I could take your story, which was super awesome, and tell you another one I read, Stanford just built a system. Interestingly, I think the acronym for it is MUSK, MUSK, but it is actually designed to improve the prognosis of cancer. And they've determined it is substantially better than a human actually is at determining not only what type of cancer a person has, but how it's going to be evolving and what treatment you should give to that person. And they plan on measuring their success in lives saved, which is amazing, right? Is it going to cost them a bunch to put in place the system? Yeah, probably. They said they're going to have to feed it 50 million images and 1 billion with a B, 1 billion transcripts of basically other prognoses and diagnoses. But at the end of the day, they're saving more lives. Um, but yeah, whatever your ROI is, I will tell you this is not a one-time AI budget. There was actually this belief back in the 90s. Yes, I am that old. I do have a Lifetime Achievement Award. If you actually go back to the 90s, where companies thought they'd have to build a website once, and then it would just be done. They're like, okay, it was a one-time, the pilot project. We'll build a website. We'll like call it a day. You have to maintain that thing. Like it's going to be there. So at this point, AI, it's no longer a should it be a line item. You can argue should it be a standalone line item or in IT's budget could it be at every department, but it's going to be more like insurance or like electricity. It is a permanent line item going forward. I so you really only have two options for next year. I was kind of joking about that you could just do nothing and wait another year. You really have two options for the upcoming year. Option number one is you still do the pilot project method where you just slice this thing off of the project code and go, we're going to do one or two pilot things. There's option number, and that will eventually turn into a permanent line item. So you can just jump to step number two, which is realize this is a permanent line item. This is no longer a question of, is this thing going to be helpful? That ship has sailed, it's past Tahiti. Where we are right now is it does need to be something permanent.
I 100% agree. And so help me understand and help the audience understand, how do you get started? I mean, especially if for those who have started an AI project and haven't seen the ROI, or maybe we're part of that, 40%, 42% statistic, how do you start? What is a good strategy? Help us understand, where do we go from here?
Realize that all of your processes until 2 years ago were built assuming they would be human first, technology assisted. Now, any process you developed brand new would be technology first, human assisted. Like let the humans only be involved if they absolutely have to. And please try and have them not break anything when they press a button. In 2025, in my perfect world, we'd start with strategy, where even before we figure out what the budget for next year would be, we'd figure out what projects we want to do first, where we should be aiming that money. I guess you got 6 months before the year is over. You'd quickly get together, have everybody discuss what the potential use cases are, figure out what the priority is, because I think at this point, everybody wants it, except a couple of people they're worried that it'll get them laid off. Everybody else wants it at this point, and you have so much to do, you can't all get it done in 26. So you're going to have to almost like the early days of dialysis machines. Go research that. It's an interesting story. It's the early days of dialysis. You don't have enough capacity to help everybody that wants it. So you're going to have to figure out like who gets it first. So strategize between now and the end of the year. Figure out exactly who is going to get what first. You're going to find a lot of projects will pay for themselves next year, or it can be a capex expense because you're going to get a longer return on it going forward. Um, no, worst thing you could do is go into next year without having any strategy. Slightly better than that is if you can't manage to get a strategy by the end of this year to figure out what your full budget should be for next year, do a strategy as your first project next year. Lump yourself a pool of money and say, okay, we're going to figure out the best way to spend that money in 2026. I can't remember. I read way too many studies. There was one recently that said, I think it was McKinsey, 30% of companies plan on spending over $10 million next year on
Wow.
internal AI projects. Do you need 10 million? Well, for a Fortune 500 company, you probably should be up into that number. If you're a smaller company, though, even if all you've got is $100,000 or $200,000 to put forth for IT, that can get you an amazing improvement. I'll give you a starter project. Uh, this is dangerous because some of you might go like, but I really like humans and want to hire more of them. But here's an idea that I will throw out to all of you. Go look at your budget for open positions for next year. So when people start saying, I need 5 more people here, 3 more people here, 2 more people over there, look at all of those and ask yourself if AI can do 80% or more of what you are trying to hire for. Because a lot of what you're trying to hire for are junior entry level, straight out of college positions. So instead say, okay, is it possible I can redirect that money from hiring them to an AI budget, and then you don't have to hire anybody. And the AI can work 24/7. It can be just as functional. You don't have to worry about the long-term cost because if you get irritated at the AI, you can just fire the AI. You don't even have to have you don't have to put it on a PIP. You can just discontinue it. But yeah, at minimum, you're going to need 6 digits going into 2026. 100, 200,000 is probably about the minimum you can do. Um, you're probably going
So,
to. Oh yeah, go ahead.
oh no, so that's for a full project, like a
Oh yeah,
full
yeah.
starter
That's 100 or
project.
200,000 like per project. That's not like 100 or $200,000 just to come up with a strategy.
Okay.
You
And
should be
what
able
would
to
a
come up with a
strategy
strat.
cost? Like, let's just, a strategy.
If I had to ballpark a number, 50K. If it's costing more than that, then you probably hired a big 4 firm and they're probably spending 6 months interviewing the janitor. I mean, you should be doing a couple of week strategy session to be able to get some people together and say, let's just brainstorm all those possible use cases, have a good facilitator do it. Have somebody that knows AI, like Lillian's company, if I may plug it,
Yes.
have them come in, figure out what that strategy should actually look like, help facilitate the conversation, figure out what's currently working so you don't set anything back, figure out what those priorities and goals are for 2026, figure out what the concerns are, figure out what you need to change to overcome it, and figure out what a roadmap's going to look like. And if you're spending more than 50 to 100, probably closer to 50, you're probably doing it by committee or you're paying someone else to figure out what they're doing.
I
You
agree. That's
you
aligned
really just want
with
to do it fast.
what Cappers will charge.
Yep.
It's yeah, around
Cool.
that ballpark.
Since I
So
just
I'm
guessed a
glad we're
random
not that
number, I'm
far
glad to
off.
hear it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so we have about 7 minutes left, and I have one question from an anonymous attendee about just your perspective on ROI for AI that comes native with their existing tech stack. So it's popping up in every app, every platform at no extra cost. So what does that mean? Is it truly no extra cost? Do you have to turn on those modules? What
Well,
does that mean?
yeah. So Google started off with their AI being no extra cost, and then they passed on a blanket. It was like $2 per user per month, all across planet Earth, to be able to use the AI stuff that they told me was free for like 6 months, and all of a sudden it's like, no, 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 someone's got to pay for Google Gemini. Get them hooked. It's the I'm allowed to say this. It's the heroin close. Yeah, sure. Try this for free. Oh, you want more? Now you have to pay for it. But there actually is, for lack of better put it, free AI. Where there are AI capabilities that are coming embedded in your software product. I'll tell you that the ROI for those is generally zero if you put zero into it, because you have to do generally a couple things. I'll take Oracle EPM. It's my background. When they add IPM, Intelligent Performance Management, you actually have to do some work to get it running. It doesn't, there's not like I clicked on a button and now all of a sudden it's a whole lot more intelligent. There's some work to enable it, number one. And no matter what it is, when it's embedded out there, there's generally some work to turn on whatever that thing is. But even if there's not, you're going to want to train people on it. So for instance, Microsoft Copilot now shows up inside of PowerPoint, and it keeps asking me if it wants me to redo that slide for me or add an image or whatever. And then there's a little chat box, and I start typing a little text message like, oh, well, could you do this? And it's like, sorry, I don't understand that command. oh, okay, it's like Siri or Alexa. I try something else, and it's like, sorry, I can't do that. Eventually, I started figuring out what it actually was able to do. Well, to calculate the ROI, you have to calculate all the time I wasted trying to figure out how to use the product. If you want ROI on that embedded functionality, spend money on training. Not to be a callback to what I said 50 minutes ago, but if you're going to roll out embedded functionality, teach people how to use it. It will be so much more effective than figure it out on your own. This
I
actually is a nice segue into a question that was submitted earlier that I will answer super quickly, which is how can we convince Oracle EPM consultants to adopt intelligent agent automation, which basically where it goes off and does some things for you, if they're typically paid by the hour? If tasks get done faster, doesn't that reduce their billable time? In this model, who truly benefits, the consultant, the client, or the consulting firm? Uh, I'm going to call it right now. We are rapidly seeing the death of the billable hour. We are going to enter a world where you'll pay more to have it done twice as fast. Right now, you're kind of at odds with your consulting company, if you will, and that their profit is maximized if it takes as long as possible. Your profit is maximized if it takes as little as possible. And both of you would like it if you got out the door as fast as possible. They just want you to pay them as much, and you just want to pay as little, but you'd be thrilled if you could press a button and it turned on tomorrow. So AI in that case, if I'll tell you when I ask most consultants why they should use, what they should do with intelligent automation, what I point out is they're always hitting their budget. Like they're always spending all those hours. There's much that they're not getting to. They're not getting to documentation. They're not spending as much time on testing. They're not spending as much time on rollout as they probably should. So
the
doing
important
things like
stuff.
intelligent automation will let you speed up and do that implementation faster. Long term, it's really going to benefit the client.
Yeah, good point. Okay, Edward, we have 3 minutes left, and I'm going to do, and I always like to end this with a rapid fire round. So, no long answers, okay? So, just
Okay.
3 minutes. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, so first question. Name one AI tool every finance team should try within the next 3 months.
Private chatbot. Connected to your internal data. Don't go grab ChatGPT, but private chatbot.
If you had to pick just one metric to track AI success, what would that be?
Reduction in hiring
Across the board or
across the
just
board. Yeah.
across the board?
I it's I would love to say to elaborate, but you told me to be like really brief and say things like look at access to information, look at better business decisions, look at business being growing, look at speed of implementation. But yeah, my biggest goal right now is figure out how to have AI handle as much stuff. Have it be a force multiplier. How much are you multiplying
Yes.
your workforce?
Gotcha. What's a realistic timeline from budget approval to seeing results?
90 days or less. I mean, I've been involved in AI projects recently where start to finish, it was live in under 30 days. These are not ERP projects. From the time you get approval and somebody says go, if you don't have a system that is delivering results within 90 days, someone's navel gazing.
Well, so 90 days. Wow. That's how quickly AI is moving and can be leveraged and
Yeah,
start
these
seeing
are not
results.
these are not
Awesome.
ERP, data warehouse, EPM implementations. These
Yeah,
are so much faster.
got it. And they complement ERP and financial systems. If a CFO does nothing else in 2026, what's the one AI thing they must do?
uh, Lead AI strategy. Don't turn it over to the CDO, CIO, CTO. They should figure out what their AI strategy should be for next year. Start by aiming that strategy at all internal functions of a company.
And then communicating that to the CIO, CDO,
Exactly.
CYO.
Someone's got to
Awesome.
support it. Yeah.
Uh, so, last piece of advice for someone walking into a budget meeting on Monday.
Uh, if you want to sound really smart at that meeting, walk in and go, um, how much do we plan on budgeting for AI for 2026? I've got some ideas.
Awesome. Well, Edward, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you
It's
for the
always nice being
conversation.
interviewed. Thank you for the
Yes, well, it
Q&A. I
wasn't an
appreciate this.
interview.
And
We
thank you
were
to all
just
the
chatting.
attendees.
So
Yeah.
it was great. And thank you everybody for joining us. And just a quick, a quick plug here for our next couple of podcasts. One coming up in July 15th, which will be a replay of and a recap of what we presented at the Oracle K-Scope conference just last week. And then the end of July, we will have a CFO's Guide to AI Governance. So thank you, everybody, and we look forward to seeing everybody again on our next webcast.
Thank y'all.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.